Hi guys, Ian from footballboots.co.uk here, and today we're going to be ditching the round ball. We're going to be talking about odd-shaped balls. It's time for the Rugby World Cup. A lot of you might not know a lot about the Rugby World Cup, especially if you're from the US, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. It's going to be watched by 4.2 billion people. Okay, so it's a big deal. You might not have seen it before. If you haven't seen it before, make sure you check it out. There's some good skills on display, even if it is not football as you know it. Right, so let's ditch this ball. And let's start talking about this ball, okay? Rugby. Now, we're going to get into something that's a bit interesting. Out of all the brands at the Rugby World Cup, there's only one that makes specific rugby boots for rugby players. Mizuno, they're going to be kitting out like Namibia and teams like that, and they're going to be wearing just regular football boots. You're going to see a lot of Nike contracted players. They're going to be wearing Nike football boots. But Adidas, they make specific rugby boots for rugby players, and that's what we're going to be talking about today, especially for those of you who play rugby and football, maybe only going to have one pair of boots, and just have a look and see what your options are with these rugby boots. We're going to break it down. There's 4 different Adidas rugby boots, and today I'm going to take off the footballboots.co.uk jacket. I'm going to reveal the New Zealand shirt. Now, the reason I've got the New Zealand shirt on is because Adidas are main sponsors of the All Blacks. They are the current Rugby World Champions. They've won it twice, once in 1987, they won it again in 2011, and they're going to go and try and get back-to-back titles this year. They are the favourites. England are the hosts. There's a lot of other big countries involved. You're going to be thinking Wales, Ireland, South Africa, Australia, France, Scotland, and then there's a lot of lesser unknown teams as well. Yes, you guys in the US, the USA are taking part. They're not big favourites. They're not got a big pedigree at the Rugby World Cup. In fact, they were beaten by Canada in qualification, and so Canada would be favoured over the US, okay? They are taking part though, so make sure you check out, see how they're getting on. One of the things to note about the All Blacks is the All Blacks have the haka at the start of their games, right? If you've never seen the haka, make sure you check it out. Even if you don't watch the whole of a game, tune in for the start, watch the haka. It's something special to see in sport, something that everybody's got to have a good look at and just understand. It's good stuff. All right, so let me get into this. I'm going to go and show you some of these Rugby World Cup boots by Adidas. We've got the Force of Black pack, which are a special dedicated blackout set just dedicated to the All Blacks. The other World Cup players, other Adidas contracted players, they're going to be wearing the electric pack, which is a kind of yellow and black version. But today we're just looking at the black Adidas Force of Black. All right, the first boot I'm going to tell you a little bit about is the adiPower Kakari. Forget the name adiPower, it has nothing to do with the Predators. These are designed for those big fat guys who are in the front row. They're the ones who are going to get down and nasty in the game. They're going to be getting involved in all kind of fights and scrums and rucks and mauls and all that kind of good stuff. This edition, they're all black, as we were talking about, black everywhere, a real classic. It's got a lot of rubber around the back here. They're a very heavy boot. They are suited, as I said, to those guys. Do not consider trying to play football in these. They do have a nice wide fit, which is a good thing. You're going to see the likes of Dane Coles, Tony Woodcock, Kevin Mialamu wearing these boots. As I said, not designed for football. They are wide fit. They are My Coach compatible, but whether you want to look at the stats or not, if you're wearing these, might be another thing. All right, on to the next pair. Right, so next up we're looking at the FF80. These are designed for the loose forwards. You're talking players like number 7s, number 8s, number 6s, the locks, the flankers. Richie McCaw, Kieran Reid, they're going to be big name players who are going to be wearing these. They remind me very much of a pair of Nitro Charge. Okay, you've got this hybrid touch upper at the front. It's a nice bit of stitching and everything going on. And then they got this TPU weld going over the top, and it really reminds me of that energy sling that you saw on the Nitro Charge. If you wanted to play football in them, you probably could. It would definitely be that kind of protective boot. They're relatively light for a rugby boot, quite surprising, but that's because they need to be so mobile and agile, breaking off the pack and doing things there. Again, another boot that looks stunning in this classic Force of Black colorway. Really decent. All right, so that's enough for all the players in the pack. Let's move on to the backs. This is probably going to be more likely a position you're playing if you're doing football and rugby. Next up is the Incurza. These are in fact a Predator. So Adidas told you the Predator was dead. Well, it still lives. It's going to be winning or losing the Rugby World Cup because these are what are designed for putting it over the posts. Okay, so take a closer look. What they've got is they've got this kind of zone, all right? So we're talking zones with the Predators, and they've got this kicking zone. It's really great for kicking out of hand, doing all that kind of good stuff. And then here they've got another zone, and that's for the place kicking. All right, so you're going to see the likes of Dan Carter kicking with these. He's going to score a lot of points for New Zealand at the Rugby World Cup. He's already scored a lot. He's going to score some more. New Zealand have the record for the most points scored in one rugby game at the Rugby World Cup, 162 points against Japan. Do not be surprised if they beat that at this Rugby World Cup. Some of the smaller teams are really going to struggle, and you're going to see a lot of points scored by the All Blacks at the Rugby World Cup. Okay, so it has this hybrid touch upper. If you get closer again, just check out that and tell me what that reminds you of. Anybody, Ace? Anybody want to say Ace? Yeah, because it reminds me of the Ace. So kind of interesting. This is a new release from Adidas. They've called it the Predator Incurza, but to me, it looks a little bit like the Ace. And what does that tell you about the Ace? I'll leave you to draw your own conclusions on that. I've already drawn mine. Anyway, stunning in the blackout again. These are what are going to be worn, as I said, by Dan Carter. You're going to see Colin Slade wearing them. You're going to see Aaron Smith wearing them. Okay, so the scrum halves as well as the fly halves will be in these. If you're looking for a pair of boots that are going to work for football as well as playing rugby, these are the ones that you want to be looking at, okay? They're universal. They actually work in a lot of positions on the rugby pitch, and they're going to be good for football too. They're not as good as a specific football boot. If you want something for both, these are the ones to consider, okay? You've got this sweet zone here. You can still bend it like Beckham with that probably. All right, so anyway, let's move on to the last boot, which is the CrazyQuick Malice. It's a new boot from Adidas. We're gonna go check it out right now. All right, the last pair of Adidas boots in the Force of Black pack in the Adidas rugby boots for the Rugby World Cup. These are the CrazyQuick Malice. They are the successors to the RS7s. Interestingly, I can't remember his name, but you tell us in the comments below if you know. There's a Norwich City player. He wore the RS7s as a footballer, and these are another pair of boots that you could consider. They're kind of like a speed boot, and they have this extra kind of thicker protection. Reminds me a lot of the original, the start of the 2015 F50 adiZeros. You're thinking of that kind of dragon scale type print that was on them, the red ones, remembering those? The last of the F50 adiZeros. They remind me of that a little bit. Similar upper, and they have like a speed traction sole plate and all of that kind of good stuff going on for the speedy players. Expect to see a ton of points scored wearing these. Instead of kicking it over the posts, they're going to be running it in. They're going to be scoring a lot of tries. They're good for the quick, agile players. They're going to be showing off their speed. And yeah, so you're going to get the likes of like Mar Nonu, Sonny Bill Williams, Julian Sevilla, players like that wearing these and scoring a bunch of tries. And yeah, that pretty much wraps up our look at the boots that you're going to see at the Rugby World Cup, specifically from Adidas. We'll be looking at all the boots that are being worn at the Rugby World Cup in a video in a couple of weeks' time once we get a good look and see who is wearing what at the tournament. Make sure you check out some games. The opening game is England versus Fiji. Okay, but then you've also got New Zealand against Argentina, and that's going to be a huge game. Okay, Argentina are pretty good at rugby. They will give New Zealand a little run for their money. It'll be interesting to see what happens. That is the first game that you're going to see these black specific boots worn. Otherwise, look out for the yellow and black electric pack versions of these same boots worn by other Adidas players throughout the tournament. All right, guys, thanks for watching this video. I'm going to go and enjoy some rugby. You do the same. Thanks.